Hello.
Hi, Colleen. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Yes.
Good, good. Well, we do not have anybody else joining us yet, but that is okay. We can visit for a few minutes and then we can continue. If they don't join us, at least we will have it recorded.
That sounds like a plan. I love that idea. Yeah, I was rushing here. I was like, oh my goodness. And of course, Zoom has its own way of doing things. They immediately was like, let's um update. I was like, oh, yes,
Yeah.
always, always.
Or sometimes it'll say to me, "You've been logged out of your account. Please log in." I'm like, I was
When
just,
did I do that? Right?
yes,
Exactly.
you decided to log me out.
Exactly. So, yeah, but I'm ready. I'm excited. Tell me a bit
Good.
about you. Look, I told you about me, so tell me a bit about you.
So I'm wondering, are you working somewhere else outside of your home now?
No. Oh yes. Well, I work Monday through Friday at the airport, JFK Airport, where I'm a
Still.
supervisor. Yes. So I retire next year, but right now I still work
So
there.
you're
So,
getting all your ducks in a row to retire.
yes. I mean, I do it both. So everyone, when people say that to me, oh, you're going to do this when you retire, I think that is more than that. So that's why I'm like, yeah, when I retire, but it's definitely part of my retirement plan.
Right, right. Well, we have to have that nowadays, I think,
Yes, yes, yes.
We're getting used to. Seems
Yeah,
like our parents really looked forward to just doing nothing.
they did. That my parents did, but they didn't when they retired. My
Right.
father worked for the railroad for um 30 something years. My mother worked for the state of New York for 30 some years. And when they retired, they moved about 100 miles from us, and my mother ended up driving a bus,
Yes.
and my father opened up a real estate company. So it was so many things that they decided to do once they retired.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so my mom mostly didn't work. She worked when we went to private school. She taught band and marching band to pay for our private school. But my dad was a salesman, and when he retired, he quit 9 to 5. But we've always had monthly rentals, things like that they continued with, of course, that made really good money. So, but they didn't have to. That was more like they didn't want to be bored. And being a Walmart greeter wasn't a thing then.
Right. I'm
So,
telling you, it makes a difference for them. I think it was because they were always constantly working, always
right.
constantly busy and having families. And, like you said, they just needed to do something when they retired. I don't know if I need to do something or I want to do something that's
I think I
inspiring
need to
me.
keep busy. I haven't worked in outside of my home for probably 3 or 4 years probably. And
Oh,
I just need to keep busy. Good morning, Ashley. Welcome. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I was just I know I mentioned that you calling that I'm working, but so I'll mostly be just listening in. I wasn't sure what this was. I thought it was like a webinar type of thing, or is it something
Uh,
else?
Actually, it is like that, but
Okay.
Samantha is going to take the floor and lead us in that. And I have been
Awesome.
sick, just so you know, so I will mute myself every once in a while. And if I look like I'm dying, I'm not. I'm just coughing up my left lung.
Okay.
It'll get better.
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Samantha.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say welcome. Thank you for joining, Ashley. And I work with women. I help them thrive in male dominated positions. And while helping women thrive in male dominated positions, I help them re-empower themselves. When women walk into jobs, they feel empowered, especially when they're the only woman, the first woman, or women that normally um seen as doing something else in these environments. So they feel a little discouraged after working with men because men have a way of mansplaining, talking to you down to you or talking to you in small pieces as if you're not the authority on a subject. But women then start to have what people consider imposter syndrome, which I don't feel imposter syndrome is a real thing. I think that is how we empower ourselves. So as we empower ourselves and we get going in these companies, we decide how we want to show up, how we want to be seen, and how we want to be heard. Um, I am still pulling up my slides. That's what's taking me a minute to get started. But I want to introduce myself. I am a certified life coach, a speaker. I am a consultant. I go into different businesses and help them understand why they're not retaining their women employees because of the microaggressions that happen, because women don't feel safe. Safety is a big thing and a big part of what makes women feel unsafe in these positions. So it's up to us to decide how we want to show up, how we want to be seen, how we want to be heard. I'm not sure if anyone knows anyone or if they themselves have worked in industries that are male dominated. And if you have, how did you feel while you were in these environments? Did you feel that you weren't being seen, or that someone maybe was talking over you, feeling like you didn't belong?
That's an interesting question, I think, Samantha, because when I first moved to this area, I had spoken with the school superintendent who was new, and I have a very forward personality, which can be a lot, but that doesn't mean that I'm not a team player just because I'm a leader. But he very specifically told me that they don't hire anybody that doesn't have a college degree to work anywhere in the school. And I thought, that's really odd. So I went ahead and opened a boutique, which I'd opened many businesses before, and asked a lady to manage it for me. And she said, well, I'm really considering working at the school as a librarian. I thought, well, that's really cool because I really would love to be a librarian. That was one of the first jobs I started with, was working in the library with children when I was like 13 or 14. Well, come to find out, she did not choose to work for the school. She chose to work for me. But she told me later that she had absolutely no college at all. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting that this upstanding citizen in our little itty bitty community is so threatened by me that he has to put stipulations on something like that, as if that's even going to hinder me. But I've never been one to not be empowered, and I've always been one to speak my mind, and I'm not afraid to walk away. So that's been my experience.
Yes, and that happens a lot. A lot of times, I'm going to share my screen. A lot of times, we as women don't have the same opportunities because men feel threatened because of what they're calling now our DEI initiative. They don't want to see us thrive, or they feel that us thriving kind of limits where they're supposed to be, where society tells them they're supposed to be. So we get the short end of the stick, to be very honest, because now we're going that extra mile, or they're gatekeeping, keeping us from showing up 110%. So
Right.
with us, I want every woman to know, and I help empower them by letting them know, as Michelle Obama said, when you walk into a room, remember you earned your place at the table. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. And knowing that we ourselves belong there, that we've done the work, that we have put in the extra time to be the best of the best, because that's what we were told. We were told that we had to be better as women because initially growing up, being in these rooms, being born a woman, we were told to be pretty, sit down, be quiet. We were never told to take the initiative. We were told, if you keep a clean house, if you take care of children, you're only as smart as you should be so that you can keep your hand in your husband's back, helping him and push him and motivate him. But now we get to sit in the boardrooms, we get to run construction sites, we get to do all the things that bring us joy. And it may not be the traditional jobs that people look at women as having, but we still get to do it. So today's goal is to regain the confidence, speak up for yourself. We're going to learn how to stop the mansplaining in real time. And we're going to do this by using my framework, PRAF, that I've created to help women to feel empowered when speaking up and stopping someone from over talking them, from taking over the room that they belong in. that they've earned, that they bring value to, that society says sometimes that we should not be in. So I did tell you a bit about myself in the beginning. I've worked, but let me tell you a little bit more. I worked in a male dominated industry for over 2 decades. And when I first started out in these industries, I worked in the field, meaning I worked with structural mechanics, mechanical department. I worked in the environmental unit, and from the environmental unit, I elevated. And during this time, most times I was the only woman in the room. At some point, there were other women that came along, but again, I was the only woman in the room. And it was scary and it was intimidating. And it was a time in my life where I thought that maybe I should not be there. I even worked in the paving unit, meaning I worked outside with asphalt, laying asphalt, mixing concrete. So this was not jobs that I was reared to do as a child. I was in beauty pageants. I was grew up playing pianos, doing all the things. Did I see myself doing this? No, I did not. But I gained a love for it because of circumstances. I wanted weekends and holidays off, and the job that I had did not allow me to do that. So I took some courses, and this is the way my life ended up. My career ended up, excuse me. So now I run teams of over 60 men. On some occasions, I run 120-man teams. And I am in charge of the emergency operations at JFK Airport. So, and I am the only woman that does that. And I'm the only woman that who's ever sat at the desk who's done that. So I am proud of what I do, and I inspire women to go after the things that make them happy and that they are excellent in, and no longer sit in the background and wait for someone to motivate them and push them, because we're more than capable. We're able to do it all. So, what you learn, the mansplaining, why women often allow this to happen, how to confidently speak up for yourself, and techniques to rebuild your self confidence and self ally. What is mansplaining? Has anyone been mansplained to? If you've been mansplained to, throw a one in the chat. Yes, being mansplained to can really take its toll on you if if you allow it to. You're sitting there and you're listening someone talk down to you to tell you what you already know. They have a way of wanting to intimidate you. This is their way of letting you know that you're not supposed to be in the room, that you're supposed to maybe be bringing them coffee, or them feeling like you're less than qualified when you're more than qualified. You know, allowing this to happen to us is our safety mechanism. Because when we're afraid, when we're fearful of anything that's happening to us, we retreat. The four, we freeze, we take flight, we fight, or we fawn. So this is what happens. And we get to stop this from happening to us. But why don't we speak up? If you've been mansplained to, I've given you some of my reasons. Why don't you speak up? You can unmute, or you
I think
can.
for most people, it's a fear of a power struggle. It's not that some women don't believe in themselves, it's that they avoid the contention. They maybe just would rather not battle it. I feel that way a lot of times. Even my husband and I were talking about this the other day. I was building a website and speaking with someone much younger than me, trying to get help from him on the hosting platform. And he kept saying, no, you have to do it this. You have to take it to B, from A to B to B to C, C to D. And I'm like, and then back, and I said, but why? Why can't we just go from A to E? Well, that's not how it's done. And I thought, but there's other ways. And so I think as women, we maybe just don't want that conflict. And so maybe that's part of our upbringing too, is, where we're taught to be quiet and set back a little bit more, as we're taught to avoid conflict.
We are definitely taught to not say anything and to allow things. Were you going to say something? I saw you unmute, Ashley.
Oh, no, I was just going to agree with that. I think the avoiding of conflict, but I do that with most people. So I don't know if it's men specifically, but yeah, lacking the tools maybe to um, assert yourself
I think
too.
that is, yeah, I think that happens to a lot of women because it is in our upbringing. We were raised, society says we should show up a certain way to be accepted, to be loved, to be liked. And then society, depending on how you were raised, traditions that have gone on in your home, you automatically step into that role. Unconsciously, we agree with it, we believe in it. And unless we recognize it and do the work, we continuously do these things. So, not allowing it to happen or being fearful, the fear comes from the unknown of what's going to happen if we don't show up the same way we were taught to show up, or we don't show up the way society tells us to show up. And for me, it takes away pieces of us when we have to step back and not speak up or be fearful of being labeled or not feeling that we belong in a place. It takes something from us. It doesn't allow us to stand as confident, even though we know we're smart. We know we belong in a place. Like Colleen said, she knew that she was good and she deserved to be there, but this man was intimidated. And this erodes at our self-confidence, our self-worth, the value that we bring. Society has taught us something, but how do we reshape it? How do we show up differently? How do we recreate how we want to show up in this world, become more confident, recreate, recommit to being the confident women that we are, that go after our dreams, that go after the jobs, that go after everything that we want in this world? How do we do that?
Let me take just a minute and welcome Melody. Good morning, Melody. Samantha, I think one of the things when I had periods of time where I dealt with that a lot, I felt like I almost put on my armor when I went out into the world, and then having a safe haven when I came home, knowing I could let my guard down. Um, and I don't think that that's fair, and I don't know that that's necessarily right, but almost like putting my armor on, like going, okay, I'm going into battle. I know I am, and I know it's going to be tough, and I know that it's going to be unfair, and I know that I'm going to take my sort of confidence and I'm going to stand to my ground, but it still wears so much more on us. I think more than than it ever would a man, because we do keep our guard up that way. We do feel like we have to be unawares. It's just like for a woman walking to your car in a dark parking garage at night. We feel like we have to be more aware, I feel like, than men feel. And so for me, it was easier to handle it knowing that I had a safe haven to come back to. Being able to look forward and go, okay, I'm going to go protect myself right now in this situation and do this, but I'm going to be able to relax later. Does that make sense?
I get it. I get it completely. But is that really protecting yourself or is it protecting them? That's the question that I ask a lot of my clients. Is that fear that's keeping us from showing up protecting us? Or is it protecting the men?
Yeah, and I think that I still showed up, but that was my way of putting my confidence on to be able to, knowing that there was going to be a conflict anyways. So there's never been a time when I didn't show up. I mean, I did show up, but I just knew it was going to be difficult, and so I faced that. That's how I handled facing that.
Right. And a lot of women do. A lot of women, we armor up immediately. We put on this, as if you're religious, you put on the full armor of God and you go into battle
Yes.
because you're so unsure of the outcome. But being unsure of the outcome is keeping us fully from stepping up. It makes us walk slightly lighter than a man would walk. It makes us sit back in a chair instead of standing up. It makes us sit more conscious, more cautiously in the corner than standing directly up. So when we allow the mansplaining, when we don't speak up to not allow us to have any conflict, it takes pieces of us away. You know, we start to doubt ourselves. We work harder to prove ourselves. And I think a lot of women do that more so than anything else. We're going to show them. So we take on little tasks that do not have anything to do with our jobs, that don't even have anything to do with the projects, just to show that I'm a team player. So we're fawning, we're doing the most to be the most, and we're still not getting the opportunities as if we stood up and we allowed ourselves to be seen and heard. That avoidance, that person that we're becoming, that person that we're bending ourselves as a pretzel into, is keeping us from fully standing our ground, as my mother used to say, standing flat footed in what we believe, what we deserve, and our God given right to anything that we do. So ultimately, in the United States and in Canada, a lot of women that work in male dominated industries, because of these microaggressions that they face, because we feel disempowered going into these jobs, we give up, we quit. Almost 60% of women that are in male dominated industries quit their jobs because they do not feel seen and heard or accepted. They feel ostracized. And these are thoughts that they are having, and these are things that are happening. But those thoughts of this always happening, this is how I'll feel be safe, this is how I'll get promotions, keeps them from moving forward. So, how are we going to stop this? Have you ever thought of stopping the mansplaining? Have you ever took the time to just think of what you wanted to do if someone was mansplaining? Have you ever thought enough to say, hey, no, this isn't what I want to happen, but you're not sure of the actions you should take? Well, that's where my framework comes in. My framework is to pause a conversation. You no longer have to allow people to talk over you. You no longer have to allow people to talk over you, around you, or have you feeling like you're in a knot. You can stop the conversation respectfully, politely, because I know it takes time to build this skill and to build that muscle to know that you're okay doing this. So, excuse me, I was talking. That's a nice, polite way to stop someone when they interrupt you or they start to talk over you. And then you reclaim the floor. You take authority in what you're saying, you take authority in what you're doing. You stop them, and then you say, as I was saying, let me go back to. And all of these things that I'm saying right now puts a boundary in place. It allows people to know where you stand and will not allow them to step over you and to ultimately disrespect what you're saying as if you're not enough or what you're saying is not valid. You're going to refocus by acknowledging that you are speaking, that you are here, that this is your stage. That's what you're going to do. And if necessary, you're going to follow up. You're going to go back and again and repeat, as I was saying, and before interrupted by Bob or Bill or Jim, whomever it is, you're going to stop them. Or even if us as women, we have a problem in an industry that's not male dominated, if you're talking with women or in an environment where you're not feeling safe, you can stop the conversation. And it may feel uncomfortable. And you may get that bubbling and rumbling in your stomach to make you feel like, oh God, am I doing the right thing? But what's telling you not to do the right thing is that part of your brain that tells you that it always works when I'm quiet. It always works when I'm not doing anything. You know, they'll accept me, they'll like me, and they'll respect me more if I stay in my place. But I want to offer you today to feel empowered as a woman. You have no place to be in. You get to take up the whole room. I give you permission to take up the whole room. If it's a boardroom, if it's your home, If it's a classroom, you can take up space and command the room.
You know, one thing that came to mind when you were saying that, Samantha, is that you just said, and they will like you. And I think that's one of the defenses that I've always used, is just to decide that I don't give a shit whether they like me or not. If I'm
Yeah.
there to do a job, I just step up and do it, by golly, it falls where it falls,
Yes, that is so important. That
I don't know that I don't know that that's the correct way to look at it, but it's certainly served its purpose.
is it a correct way or incorrect way to look at anything, to be very honest?
I don't know. I think that as society goes now, we're trying so much more to be accepting and people pleasing, and I guess that's never lined up well with me. I mean, I want for people to be happy, but I've never felt like their happiness depends on me. So I've always been very independent and saying, if you like me, you do. If you don't, you don't. That's okay.
Yeah. And that's a great way to look at it because there is no right or wrong way to do anything. It's just your way. And no one has to agree with it or write in and say, oh my goodness, you're amazing. You have to feel that way about yourself. You have to stand up for you and say, you know what? I'm amazing. I'm doing the best that I can, regardless of who thinks what or how they think about me. I am here to stand up for me.
I think at the end of the day, too, Samantha, that one statement is so much value in that one statement. I'm doing the best that I can. And at the end of the day, we each know, and that's between us, and I am a Christian. So that's between me and God. I do know that I've done the best I can, and that is all that's expected of me. And so does it always work out? No. Do I fail? Oh yeah, regularly. But that also keeps me progressing. So to do the best that I can is very important to me.
But getting there, how did you get there? How did you get to that point of knowing that doing the best that you can at that moment was enough? Because a lot of women, like I said, don't feel that way. They feel like they have to make everyone else happy because that's what society has taught us, trained us. This is historically going back years. The patriarchal system tells us as women, in order to be liked, to be loved, we have to be good mothers, good wives, good girlfriends, good to everyone else besides ourselves. And it takes something in us. So for me, it took me getting to know myself, and from what you're saying, you did the same thing. So maybe you
Yeah,
could kind of
that's
have
interesting.
something.
Yeah. I think that I've actually been, I'm getting older. I'm well into my 50s now. And so I recently lost my mom, and she was the last living member of my um, family I was raised in. And so I'm at a point where I no longer carry the burden of, which maybe I should never have carried, but I did carry. Like, I shouldn't get a tattoo because maybe it goes against what my parents want. I shouldn't have any bad habits because it goes against the way I was raised. So I no longer have those things to hold me back. But one of the things I've realized about myself is that I was abandoned when I was 6 months old, and I was adopted a year later um, into a family, and it was the best blessing in the world to be adopted into a very well-off family. But with that comes the fact that I came from a different genetic mold, and that cannot be changed. And so I never fit in my family that I was adopted in, and I'm sure that I was loved and valued because my parents couldn't have children. However, I never felt heard. I never felt like I fit in. I was often sent to my room when family came to visit, excluded from relationships that would be normal and important to other people, and to my DNA and genetics. It is important to me, but it wasn't looked at that way from my parents. And so I feel like I've always had to have my own back. I have always had to believe in myself, or else I would have been just miserably depressed. And so I've just made that choice every single day to just believe in me. It's a one sure thing between me and God. At the end of the day, the rest of the world can fall off, and I know I've got that. And so I feel like I've had to rely on that for 55 years. And so it's done it.
Yeah, and I get it. And that is, like you said, being brought up and having the someone to love you bring you up and adopt you and make you part of their family, and you still felt you had to have your home back. That is a blessing to know that you can do that and you were able to. But a lot of women don't feel that way. They don't feel they can have their home back. They look for, you think about it, not until, like you, I'm in my 50s. So um, a lot of times, not until the 70s, were we even as women allowed to have bank accounts. And we, you know, and when we think
I
about
couldn't
this,
have lived that way.
but you think about it, how many people, 50 years ago. So in 50 years, it takes us to mature to become something. Society doesn't change, and everyone doesn't do the work that we do as women, as humans, to get to this point. So, how do we start to shift? How do we start to change our own minds? How do we become strong enough as women and independent enough and feel empowered enough to stand up, to believe in ourselves, to show up for ourselves so that we can teach not just ourselves, but the next generation to do the same thing?
Samantha, I have a couple questions on that. Number one, do you think that we have to be completely broken to reach that point?
I don't think that we have to be completely broken, but I do think that we have to recognize where we are right now and where we want to be. You have to want to
And
change.
how do we, when I was raising my kids, uh, I didn't, I wasn't, well, obviously it was a long time ago. I have a son who's 32. Um, and I raised my children that they were a guest in my home and they were, I decided what happened for my family. If we were going to dinner as a family, they were coming along. I never said, honey, would you like to go to dinner tonight or shall we eat in? I didn't, I was the adult in the home and I ran my home. And I see my kids raising their kids and literally saying to 2 and 3-year-olds, do you want to go to Grammy's today or you don't want to? Because we can just stay home. And I think that's so weird to me. But how do we raise that generation to be strong and to believe in themselves and have that um, inner value? I don't know.
I I think that they have it. It's instilled in them, but I do believe in the change because my daughter, like you, Rachel, you told them what to do.
Mhm.
They didn't have as many choices, and not having choices, I think, is unfair. Within giving them choices, you also give them boundaries. You also give them rules because it's our job as parents to raise them.
Right.
And they don't have choices. If they don't have a mind, then we're controlling them. And I think at some point we have to teach people to be independent, especially young girls, so that they can make decisions, so they do know right from wrong, and not allowing other people to steer them in directions that they don't want to go, and them waiting 30 and 40 and 50 years to learn to make decisions for themselves. As long as I'm making decisions, as long as I'm directing them and not giving them any opinions. I ask my granddaughter all the time, what do you want to eat? You say what you want. You tell me. I need to hear your voice because that's why going into these jobs, going into these relationships, women don't have voices because we've been told how to.
That's so interesting. And I don't want to dominate your call here today, but I want to say too that I feel like when I was raising my kids, and maybe this is a product of my own abandonment, but I did give them choices within a controlled environment, right? And so I did say, what sports do you want to play? And I will support you in that. I did not say you can go out at 8 and come in at midnight and never have any contact with me in between then, though. Right. But I do say, and I did say to my granddaughter, you mentioned your granddaughter. I had my 10-year-old granddaughter here over the holidays. And one of the things I noticed about her, and her sister is 2 years older, is not like this. But I noticed that when I ask her something or anybody else ask her, you could tell by the look in her face that she is reading them to see what answer they want. And I sat her down and I said to her, you know what, Miss Darce? I want your answer. I want to know what you think, what you feel. When I ask you that, don't look at me and try to give me the right answer. There is no right answer. The right answer is how you truly feel. And I went over that with her probably 3 or 4 different times. I don't know that she got it yet, but that's, they live clear across the United States. I don't see her on a regular basis, but I think that I would have been better off with my kids, maybe to give them more room to hang themselves, if you will. I mean, we felt like as parents, we were protecting them to be like, no, you're not gonna be gone till all hours of the night or whatever it was,
I do think you're correct in the way you're thinking. Having those boundaries in place are important, and teaching children different steps to get to the next level. That's our job as parents. But it's also our job to allow them to see and to grow
Right.
and direct them. At some point, we get to direct. And even if they stray, as my mother used to say, they won't stay. But as long as we're teaching and giving them values, putting values in place, they will grow into good humans. And again, going back to these granddaughters are, see, they're looking for validation. They're looking to be okay and to be liked and to be loved and to be present so that people can see them. But what if they believed in themselves? What if they knew unequivocally, without a doubt, that they were right in what they and stood in what they believed, and they had their own back? And it starts with how we're bringing them up, how we're raising them, what we're allowing them to see, and being able to have the conversations. A lot of times, conversations weren't had, especially
Right.
when I was growing up.
Oh
You were
yeah.
told what to do, you
Mhm.
weren't given the right to have an opinion. So then we look for other people to validate us. We look for other people to say it's okay. And society has its own way to create prejudices against us. Look, ageism, sexism, where we live. All of these things dictate how people see us. And when we fall into that, and unconsciously, but consciously, we are aware of these things. And we get to redefine all of this by stepping to our own and being who we are. But how do we know who we are? Unless we take the time. And that means doing the work, stripping down all the things that were put in us. And it is scary. And it doesn't have to be something traumatic that has happened to us over time. It could just us wanting change, or getting that soft nudge that says, this isn't enough for me. I want more. How do I speak up? How do I align myself with the person I want to be? If you want to speak up, how am I going to get there? And how do I let go of all the things that I'm holding on to? I've had a friend of mine who still holds on things that happened to her in her childhood. Not that that hasn't shaped her and made her who she is today, but you don't have to stay that person. You get to change. You get to have a
Right.
voice.
It can
And
shape you without controlling you.
exactly. But you have to have that awareness that you can change, that you are capable, that you are able, that you can believe in you. And a lot of times we don't know that. We just go along with what has happened over the years. And that's why us allowing the younger generation to have a voice, to be seen, to know that they can change their mind, that they don't have to lay themselves on the cross to be seen and heard, or they don't have to give so much of themselves that they're looking for a return on investment from other people.
And I think, Samantha, that you really hit on it there for a minute. That we have to relax, and escape the flight or fight in order to be able to see that there are other options. And it took me being 50 years old. Literally, I was 50 years old when I realized that I don't need to fight or flight. Fuck them. I mean, excuse my French, but I can do life on my own if I had to. And I need to relax and do it my way more.
Yeah, you get to. That's what we as women do not do. We don't give ourselves permission to do what we want to do, to be who we want to be, become who we want to be. We look around for everyone to say, good job, well done, oh my goodness. Or we look for, especially when we're the first few or the only in any position, we look for everyone around us to say, oh my goodness, you're great at that, instead of telling ourselves. That's why I believe so much in self allying, allowing ourselves to be our own best friend first before we look for it, and figuring out what we look for in other people and give that to ourselves first.
I
People
like
have
that.
this things, yeah, people have this way of saying self self-care is the key. That's not the key without self-love or self-ally, because you can't just put a patch on it. Care is just putting a patch on it. And it's a difference between love and care. And a lot of times in homes, you get a bit of both, unless you have parents that have done the work. And growing up in the generation that I grew up in, I did not have both. My father loved, and he told you how amazing you was and what you could do, even though he directed me in the path of everything a girl should do. But my mother cared. She made sure that you had everything that you needed, that you had clean clothes, that you did all the things you were supposed to do. But she would tell you in a minute, if you left something laying down, that that was nasty and you're not going to be anything if you don't pick up behind yourselves. She cared. She didn't know how to love. She knew love, but she cared. So learning to give yourself the love so that you can care comes so much greater. So that's what I teach my clients to do, is how to love on themselves, how to give themselves what they need, self-ally, be their own best friend, be
Think
everything that
we're
they
raised by
need.
the same woman, and I love that, to be your ally. That goes so deep. That goes so deep in your soul, right? To truly be your own ally. More so than even, dare I say, being loyal to your spouse or being loyal to your children. It's got to come first. That makes perfect sense.
Yes, because if you can give it to you, and what do they say? You give from your overflow. It's an overflow that just pours out of you, that just oozes out, so you can give that freely without feeling depleted, without feeling like you're taking from yourself to give to anyone, because you have the right to have all of this love. And we don't know that as women, that we have the right to have all of this. We feel we have to give pieces away of ourselves in order to feel the love, to feel the joy, to get love back. But we don't need a return on investment. We just need to give it to ourselves first. And that's what being empowered is. That's what, as a woman, empowering yourself is knowing what you want, standing in it, asking for it, and believing in you. And how do you do that? By knowing those I am statements. I believe in I am statements, loving on yourself, believing yourself, knowing that I am great, I am worthy, I am forever X, Y, and Z. These are things that will never stop you from growing. And I'm not saying just affirmations get you there, learning how to navigate your nervous system and understanding why you're upset or why you're having the thoughts helps you elevate to the next step. These are all the things that, you know, will allow you to grow and to become. Your nervous system, meaning that your brain, what your brain is telling your body to do when you're feeling anxious, when you're not feeling safe, figuring out the why, figuring out why you're not feeling safe, and understanding that your thoughts and your feelings are all connected, and you get results from that. And you get to decide how you want to show up. And for me, it's do you need the support from others, or can you get it from yourself? Engaging in self-love and self-care practice, and knowing that what you're feeling is real, that it's not fake. No one makes you feel anything. You control how you feel. Understanding that you get the power, and taking that power back instead of giving it to other people empowers you in itself. If we let everyone around us believe that they can make us feel a certain way or make us think a way, we give away everything that we have. But what I want to offer you today is for you to stand in your own thoughts and in your own feelings, and not give other people permission to rearrange the way you decide to show up in this world. You get to do that fully as a woman. Yes, you have emotions, you have thoughts, you have feelings, but they're yours. Not that someone else did that to you. You're an adult. You get to make a choice.
And I think the biggest choice is how you're going to let that affect you, or if you're going to let it affect you.
Right. You get to choose. You get to choose the entire direction you go without giving your power away to someone else. I was going to talk about my clients that I work with. I help them acknowledge who they are, what they want, without giving away all the power. We've talked about that. Um, so it's so important for you to embrace you, take control of you, allow yourself to believe in you so that you can move forward. And Rosalind Carter said, you have to have the confidence in your ability and then be tough enough to follow through. Knowing that you are able and capable is one part of it, but taking the necessary steps to get to where you want to be is all up to you. And I know it may be scary. I know it's the unknown, but that takes more courage stepping into your unknown. As a woman, as a human, you get to be that person. You get to control your life. You get to control your future. No one gets to do that for you. And knowing that you're capable by creating the love and comfort and that you have in yourself is so important. So I want to thank you all today for joining me. Um, and I invite you, if you have any questions, to please feel free to reach out to me.
Do you have a quiz that you can, are you going to link it to us? Do we need to
Yes, the
report
link,
somewhere?
the quiz, if you scan that QR code, you can
Oh.
get to the quiz.
And nobody, I don't know that anybody else is in a position to scan right now. Can you message it to both, not in our chat because that's gonna disappear when we close. Can you message it somehow to them? To Miss Melanie
Yes, I could message it.
Ashley? That would be great.
Yes, I
Or if you want
can.
to share it in the group, you're welcome to do that.
Okay, I will do that. I'll share it in the
Try
group
to get my camera to work.
and I'll share it in the group now, and I'll also drop it in our group also. How does that sound?
That sounds good.
And I don't know if anyone has any questions or thoughts. Please do not hesitate. Let me know. If you're
Okay,
not
and
comfortable saying it now, we could do it. You can
this
reach out
one
to me.
takes you, this QR code takes us to book a call. Is there one just directly to a quiz?
Let me see. I thought it did both, but I'm going to let me see. Let me get the quiz up for you
I
right
scanned
now.
it. All I'm seeing is the discovery call.
Okay, 1 second. Let me get that up right now. I have so many
Right?
different links at this point. Let's see. But I will get it to you shortly. Unveiling my universe. I have a new one that a new link that I'm using. Let me stop sharing my screen. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now, and I'm going to drop it in the chat as soon as I can pull it back up. But
And
if
this is
anyone has,
recorded too. I will post this in the group also. And I think you can grab it from there, Samantha, and download it in case you want to use it for any kind of training.
oh, okay, thank you.
Anything like that. Yeah. And I really appreciate you doing this. This has been so helpful to me, and I'm sure that Miss Ashley and Miss Melody appreciate it too.
Thank you so much for joining and having me. I appreciate it. I truly do.
I
It
did
has,
try to get on a call with you, or log into your live or your, was it a podcast or webinar or something, and the link did not work for me.
I was having a problem. I was using a new platform. Usually I use Zoom, but now I'm using Riverside.
Okay.
I'm upgrading a little bit, and for some reason, anyone that I wanted to get into the back room was not capable, was not unable, excuse me, to get in the back room. So I'm just going to still work on that. And now I also do have that as a workshop that I'm gifting to people who would like to see it. So they're welcome to do that also.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, I certainly appreciate you doing this, and I look forward to seeing you inside the group. And please make sure that you post that link. I would just post it right under the Zoom,
Okay.
the announcement for the Zoom, and then also when I repost the Zoom, you can share it there again too.
All right. Awesome sauce. Thank
And
you
you
so
can share
much.
both. Go ahead and share your webinar one and your quiz if you want.
Okay. Thank you
Or
so much.
even your discovery call one, however you want to do that, but just make sure it stays in those posts.
Okay.
Don't
I'll
want
definitely-
everybody self-promoting everywhere, but as a guest co-host on our platform, you're absolutely welcome to do that. And just so you know, I will be boosting this group too, and I hope that you do too. Please share this and tag our group and share the link for people to join so that they
I
can
will.
the networking.
Thank you. I wasn't sure if I could do all of those things, so I was waiting to talk to you. So now that I know, I definitely will.
Absolutely. I'm all about growing and sharing and helping and empowering women on their journey to build businesses they love. So there's so many facets to that, and I'd like to just include all of them.
All right, great. Thank you
You
so
ladies,
much.
please have a good week. And I think that let's see if I will close the meeting now. Thank
All
you.
right, then thank you. Bye-bye.